Welcome to a Fifth of Jack Gaming, where it's Friday, and it's the last Friday of the month. So what does that mean? That means we're going to have a deep dive over Call of the Wild. If you don't know, that's Voja, Jaws of the Concave. That is our commander for this deck. So what we're going to have is the different synergies that are with the deck and how you would like to end up playing it. This is a nice solid build that we've taken this entire month to work over, trying to get the wrinkles worked out of it. Without further ado, let's jump over to the folks at Moxfield to be able to show you what we have in store. Thank you for the folks at Moxfield for allowing us to use their site to be able to show off this deck. We also have a link down in the description down below of the deck list that you can end up actually seeing it. Before we do anything, let's break down our commander. The commander for Call of the Wild is Voja, Jaws of the Concave. So it's a 5/5 for 5. This is a Naya commander. That means it has green, red, and white that you'll be able to use. The mana cost of this guy is 2 red, green, and a white. This is where it's going to get a little bit crazy. So strap in, buckle up, and here we go. It has Vigilance, Trample, and Ward 3. If you don't know what Ward 3 is, that means that it can't be targeted by spells or abilities unless they pay 3 additional mana to be able to target this guy. When it attacks, we get to put X +1/+1 counters on each creature that you control, where X is the number of elves you control. And then we have this nice little addition of draw a card for each wolf that you control. So whenever this bad boy attacks, we'll be able to put a bunch of +1/+1 counters depending on how many elves that we have on the battlefield, and we get to draw a card for each wolf. So we're guaranteed to at least draw one additional card with this guy. What this commander is screaming, at least to me, is Elf Ball. And if you don't know what Elf Ball is, that's when you build a bunch of elves on the battlefield. It's like an avalanche, as you could say, or avalanche, where it starts small, but then all of a sudden, before you know it, it's big and wide and coming right down at you. We'll save the creatures. We'll go over through the boring parts real quick, and then we'll actually end up trying to get into the meat and potatoes of the deck. In this deck, we're running 36 lands. We have a Bloodstained Mire, Kabari Courtyard, Canopy Vista, Cinder Glade, Command Tower, Dryad Arbor, Evolving Wilds, Exotic Orchard, Fable Passage, 10 Forest, Jetmir's Garden, Cassock Wolfrun, Moss Valley, 3 Mountains, Mirrored Landscape, Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, Path to Ancestry, 2 Plains, Rockfill Val, Rootbound Crag, Slayer Stronghold, Terramorphic Expanse, Wirewood Lodge, and Yavimaya Cradle of Growth. So Yavimaya Cradle of Growth gives all of us Forest. That's going to be playing a key role into this deck for some of the elf shenanigans that we have in this thing. Also, Wirewood Lodge, since we're running a bunch of elves, we can pay a green, tap this to untap an elf, and let's just say there's a few mana dorks that we have in this deck. Terramorphic Expanse, also Path to Ancestry, Mirror Landscape, Jetmir's Garden, Fable Passage, Exotic Orchard, Command Tower, and Bloodstained Mire allows us to be able to have access to other colors of mana that we're looking for. So the main part about this deck is we want to make sure we have green. Green is our main thing. If you look down here at the nice little build down that we have, you can see green is our number 1 source, followed by mountains, plains, and then colorless. So green is definitely the main color. Red, white, we just dash it in mainly to be able to play our commander. And there's some other spells that we can end up playing as well. Talking about spells, let's dash over to our sorceries that we have. We have 6 in total with Green Sun Zenith, Finale of Devastation, Nature's Lore, 3 Visits, Natural Order, and Blasphemous Act. Blasphemous Act is our board wipe that we have in here, just in case we get a little bit too far behind and everyone else is too scary. Natural Order is some shenanigans we can sacrifice. Let's say this Dryad Arbor to be able to get our little peanut butter combo and jelly combo of Cradlehoof Behemoth. Nature's Lore, more ramp based on the forest, so we're going to be trying to dash in more forests. stuff that would be like Cinderglade, which has a forest type to it. Finale Devastation is another combo where we can grab either from a graveyard or our library. And Green Sun Zenith, we get to end up looking. Most of the time, I've used this to end up finding Dryad Arbor to bring over a nice little mana ramp package that we have. So our spells don't stop there. We have some instances that we have. Shields of Valos Vel, Boros Charm, Heroic Intervention, Beast Within, Inspiring Call, and Teferi's Protection. Teferi's Protection is a protection spell for us to be able to say, nope, we're out of here, and save us for another turn. Inspiring Call gives us a card for each creature that has a +1/+1 counter on it, and it gives them indestructible. Beast Within is a way to destroy a pesky non-land permanent that we need to get rid of. Heroic Intervention is to be able to protect our board, as well as Boros Charm, with a slight benefit of giving a double strike to a creature, because Voja can get a little bit out of control, or if we ever need to, we can dome a person for 4 damage. Seeds of Valos Vel gives our creatures changeling, so it makes it all different types. So it gives us that little boost of draw fuel where it makes all our elves into wolves, and Voja into a wolf as well as an elf. Next thing that we're going to be covering is our artifacts. We have artifact packages of the size of 5. So we have 5 artifacts in this deck. We have the classic Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots, and Masswood Nexus. Masswood Nexus does a similar thing to what the Shields of Velvast does. However, we have Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves to give haste. We like to have haste because we would prefer to be able to swing with our commander the turn that it comes down, trying to get that value train started. Arcane Signet is also a mana. It's a mana ramp, but it's also our fixing package. Soul Ring is straight up ramp that comes with it. Next up, enchantments, where we end up having 5 of these guys. We have Aggravated Assault, because what's better than having one combat phase is having a second combat phase. And then you may end up having more after the fact of that. Rhythm of the Wild is normally the one that we end up going for, because it makes our creature spells not to be countered, and it also gives us an option to give haste or give a +1 counter through the mechanic of Riot. Rising of the Day gives us haste, and our legendary creatures get +1/+0. We'll skip the next one for Guardian Projects, which lets us draw a card for each time we play a creature. This is Annie Joins Up. This is a legendary enchantment where when it comes into the battlefield, it does 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker opponent it controls. But that's not really in here because of that reason. If a trigger ability of a legendary creature you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. Meaning that when we attack, that's an ability that triggers. We'll end up getting a double trigger of that +1/+1 counters. Also, that drawing of cards. And here's the funny thing. Ward is also a triggered ability, because when they target their creature or our creature, that triggers an additional time. So the idea of having to pay at least 7 mana for that removal spell sounds pretty good for me. So we're coming to the best part of the deck, is the creatures. We got some craziness that's going to come out of this. We have 41 creatures in total in this deck. We have Alashore Shepherd, Arbor Elf, Birchlore Rangers, Boral Elf, Elvis Mystic, Finhor Elves, Heritage Druid, Jasper Sentinel, Drago Warcaller, Land of War Elves, Bramble Paragon, Devoted Druid, Druid of the Anima, Elvish Visionary, Elvish Warmaster, Gyre Sage, Leaf Crown Visionary, Land of War Lone Speaker, Mass Vandal, Paradise Druid, Priest of Titania, Sky Shroud Elf, Circle of the Dreams Druid, Elvis Art Druid, Elvis Champion, Elvis Spirit Guide, Uzuri Renegade Leader, Morrowind the Nurturer, Mirror Entity, Moonblessed Cleric, Realm Walker, Reclamation Sage, Rishkar Premier Renegade, Zavala, Heart of the Wilds, Wood Elves, Beast Whisperer, Grand Warrada, Null Mage, Shepherd, Solar and Halar, Crater Hoof, and Baby Crater Hoof, and in Raise Forerunners. So you have the classic combo of the peanut butter jelly with a bunch of elves and Crater Hoof to be able to end the games. Solar and Halar lets us end up doing damage with the +1/+1 counters. Rada gives us, well, mana ramp. To be able, whenever we attack, we get that much mana, and it doesn't end at that phase. Draw Fuel with Beast Whisperer. Mana Fixing with Wood Elves. More mana ramp. With there so much +1/+1 counters, we end up being able to use them to be able to make mana. Remove a pesky artifact or enchantment. Runwalker, we normally put this on elves because we end up looking at the top card. You could play the top card of your library if it's that matching type of what we end up calling. Moonbrush Cleric is another way to be able to tutor out enchantments. So we end up having that few enchantments like Rhythm of the Wild that we have in here, or Annie's Join Up. Yes, I know I don't have all will we want in this, and I kind of felt like it was a little clunky, but it's definitely something you can end up adding to the deck. Mirror Entity is another way to give that crazy bonus of making our creatures either bigger by dropping all that mana into it, or we can at least do it for value to make them all different creature types. Spirit Vision is where we can exile it to hurry up or ramp something out, and this is what pays off for the forest. If we make everything into an elf, it'll gain Forest Walk. Plus the +1 isn't too bad. But the main thing is Forest Walk, because then everyone has forests, and then we'll be able to just walk right in for that victory. More ramp, filtering, and ramp. That's ramp, filtering ramp, graveyard shenanigans, ramp, possibly draw in the pinch when we end up needing it. Ramp based off how many +1/+1 counters that has. We get to make more bodies, plus it's a late game payoff. Draw cards. Ramp. Gives trample. So here's the big thing. It gives counters, and it gives trample for each creature that has a +1/+1 counter on it. That's something that's amazing in this deck that needs to go along for all of our little elves that we have. Ramp. Oh, this guy's amazing because however many +1/+1 counters that it has on it is how much all of our elves get +1/+1 for each counter that it's on this guy. Another way that we can end up winning just through our commander being attacking. We got some ramp, but this ends up also fixing for any color mana. So if we need a red or a white, we need to have the access to be able to do that with this. Ramp. And another way that we can end up fixing our mana. Ramp, and making stuff uncounterable. Also, a late game that we can end up making everything a 5/5 and a dinosaur and adjustable types. So it's another good way finisher. Because let's say they get Voja where we can't end up paying for it and it got too expensive. We want to be able to have other ways that we can shift it over and win through the elf ball. So you have that, and you also have your Zuri that you end up having a +3/+3 and trample. Or you can have Death Touch that's going to be coming through our Elvish Warmaster right here. With the quick cover of this, let's slap it back over to our little regular camera and give our final thoughts about the deck itself. And welcome back. So what we ended up thinking about the deck is that it's a solid build that comes over with it. And I honestly feel like that this is the elf commander that you end up having. You're planning on playing elf ball, this is the deck for you. Because you end up having so much value that comes out of Voja itself to be able to get the +1/+1 counters, and that's where I feel like that's where the strong point comes out of this deck. The draw a card for each wolf that you control is nice, but that's not the main reason that you're having it. The +1/+1 counters is what we're going over with it. Yes, I could run like hardened scales and stuff like that, but the thing is that's the gravy on top of the potatoes. And let's just keep the potatoes and be able to win from there. So what did you think of the deck? let us know down in the comments down below. And if you built it or you've played with it, what was your experience with the deck? I would say this is more on the competitive side, and this could end up winning like turn 3, turn 4 at fast case. And it does make you a public enemy, especially once Voja drops. So if you're not prepared for that, this was something you probably would want to steer away from. Other elf ball commanders that'll be nice is like Lathril, where she goes the Gagari route, where you have the green-black colors. But like I said, I feel like Voja is the deck to be able to go with elf ball with. You still have the classic peanut butter and jelly combo with Cradle Hoof to be able to win, just in case you end up getting Voja overtaxed for yourself. And you also have mana dumps that you can end up dropping all that mana that you get into. If you're liking the content that we're putting out, like, subscribe, and hit that little bell icon. And if this is your first time over to the channel, welcome to the channel. Thank you for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later.